plantains. Many of you, maybe like me, who grew up out in the boonies, didn't know anything about them until I became an adult. So I'll do some introduction about the plantain, and then I will show you the recipes I've come up with this week. Hopefully there's some new things that you have not seen before. So, a plantain is a banana. It is a banana. Oftentimes you'll see them in the stores as green. I only have a partial one here. They're very green when they're green. As they ripen, they become more yellow, which is a little more familiar. And believe it or not, but a brown plantain is not a bad thing. So, plantains are bananas. A true plantain is a very specific kind of banana. But any banana that's very starchy and is typically used for cooking, a cooking banana, is considered, it's oftentimes called a plantain. So there's all these technical breeds, but a plantain is a common name for any sort of cooking banana. The bananas that we typically get at the grocery store here in America are called Cavendish. And to be honest, not that I have a huge amount of experience, but they are said to be some of the least flavorful bananas out there. I happened to find this type of banana at our local store. This is a burro banana, one of just many. There are about 1,000 different kinds of bananas in the world. I'll name a few. Cavendish is what we know, and there's dwarf Cavendish. I don't know where ladyfingers fits in there. I don't know if that's a different kind or if that's just dwarf Cavendish. There are red bananas. Apple bananas are also known as manzano bananas. People from Hawaii or the Philippines are probably familiar with manzano bananas. Plantains, burro, which I just showed you, baby bananas, and saba bananas. And saba bananas are the type that the Philippines typically use for their cooking bananas. One of the things that makes the banana such a fantastic food is that it has yields fruit all year round. So when maybe some other grains have gone out of season, or you've run out of last year's potatoes, or your greens haven't come up yet, bananas are typically still available. That's probably also one of the reasons that they're so cheap. In Alaska here, they're one of the cheapest produce. Obviously carrots and potatoes are cheaper, but bananas are the cheapest fruit by far. They are, going back specifically to plantains, plantains are a staple food, a major staple, as in, basic starch for nearly 37 million people. A lot of those are people from Africa, Western Africa in particular, but a total of 70 million people in the world rely on plantains as 25% or more of their starch intake for the day. So, something we typically overlook here is actually a major part of life for a lot of the world. That includes Africa, West Africa and Central Africa, but also and South America, the north and central parts of South America, and in Asia as well. So this is plantains and how important they are for these cultures, for their foods. One interesting thing, in Malay language, bananas typically grow facing down. And sometimes you'll get a tree or a bundle of bananas that are actually growing facing up, and it translates, they call them a certain kind of banana that translates literally defying God. And they say that those bananas are cursed and will make you sick if you eat them. And so they won't eat any banana that is defying God by facing up toward God instead of being humble the way perhaps that we should be. They won't really make you sick, but it's an interesting piece of cultural information. Another really interesting thing, I have completely forgotten, so I will remember it in a minute. Oh, boy, I had it in my mind just a second ago. First recipes that I worked on, it was really hard to find recipes, only because so many cultures in all of the world use plantains for so many different things. And so I didn't want to do fried plantains. I felt that anybody who knows anything about plantains or ever heard of them has had fried plantains or plantain chips. But I found a slightly similar concept, a snack, it's always a good place to start, that comes from the Philippines, that would have originally used the saba banana. They call it banana Q, sort of like barbecue, but banana Q, either spelled with the letter Q or C-U-E like barbecue ends. And it's interesting because although they are served on skewers, not usually typically looking quite like this because the Saba banana is shaped different, they are not actually barbecued. They are in fact deep fried and then stuck on skewers to look like a barbecued food. Oops, they're dripping. They are, excuse me. Oh, now I'm sticky. They are a sweet snack in which the bananas are either rolled in brown sugar and then fried, which is what I did because it's really easy for a single pot, or they're deep fried and then rolled in some sort of a sugar-based sauce. And so super easy to make, great with children because, I mean, outside of the fact that children can't deep fry, they're very tasty. And it's a good way to introduce them to a different kind of starch or a different country. So Banana Q from the Philippines was where I started. From there, I moved over to Ghana, and I made a different kind of snack. Now, this snack completely eluded me. It is called, and actually I made you, oh yeah, here you go, Banana Q. I made you cards, and I wrote them backwards so they would show up forward for you. All right, this one, I just saw the name, and I was like, I have to make that. Kele Wele, and it's from Ghana, and it's a street snack. They have these little, I think they call them chop shops or chop shops. Not like, you know, steal your car and take all its parts. Little, not even a market. It's a little shop where someone can make their own recipes and sell them. It's a vendor, little street vendors. And one of the very favorites is this Kele Wele, which is a spicy plantain. They season it with specifically ginger and salt is the way that this recipe starts. And then from there, the different vendors can add or adjust it how they would like. But this recipe kicked my pants because every time that I tried to make it, it was turning out bitter. First of all, some of the original recipes I saw called for dried ginger powder. I have like 150 spices in my spice cabinet. I kid you not. And I'll share about it someday. But I don't have dried ginger powder because it's always really hot. In order to get it to taste decent, it's kind of like dried mustard. It's very spicy. And in order to get it to taste decent, you have to heat it up in something that needs to get warmed up really well. And at that point, I would just use fresh ginger or this ground ginger that comes in a tube. If you haven't seen that, the grocery stores sell it typically in the produce area. And it's amazing. It works fantastic. So I actually went and bought powdered ginger just to try these recipes, and every single thing that I made was just hot. It was hot from the ginger. It was bitter, and they called for cayenne pepper, and it was just spicy. Or when I saw another recipe, or commonly saw, where they had grated ginger and grated onion, but then it didn't want to stick to the plantain. So I started the process of working on these recipes last Wednesday, so a week ago, and just yesterday I finally was able to come up with something decent. And so this is my version of Kele Wele, and I cut them a little bit larger than they normally do. I had to make several batches because I kept eating them, so I would call it a success. My secret was using yogurt to put all of the seasonings in to give it something to stick to on the plantain. It was extremely successful. Mine are also, probably a little bit sweeter than what you would get over in Africa. But it has ground ginger and ground onion and garlic. And then serrano chili. That was the chili that I found. You could probably use any other kind of chili, fresh chili pepper that you like, or dried chili that's of your choice. And I put sugar in it to kind of just balance out these flavors. And then the yogurt needed definitely salt and sugar to kind of deal with the Greek yogurt that I use. It has been fantastic. So it might be a knockoff. When I go to Ghana next time, or the first time whenever I get to Ghana, or maybe a Ghana restaurant, or meet someone who is from Ghana, they can show me the real way to do it. But if you're looking for a nice spicy treat that would be great at a party or a friend's house or an hors d'oeuvre, or just to eat yourself, and you could always leave the chilies out. Everything else in it's not spicy. I mean, ginger can be, but it's really not. Anyway, I've been extremely happy with it. I had to make a second batch because I forgot and ate them all before I had some to show you. And so, continuing then in Ghana, with Ghana recipes, I made fried spicy plantain balls. And we're just going to say balls a couple times, balls, 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 and we're going to get it out, and then we're going to move on. So these are fantastic because they have the soft plantain inside. You can use a green plantain or a yellow plantain, and then they're crispy on the outside. Interestingly, the two recipes start with almost the exact same ingredients: the grated ginger, the grated onion, the chili, salt, pepper. The spices are just a little bit of clove and cinnamon and nutmeg. But these have been mashed. Oh, I have to show you my mashing fork. All right, I'll do that in a few minutes. These have been mashed to you boil it and then you mash it. Well, then what I realized through studying, these are called kakra or kakla. That's the technical name for these Ghanaian spicy balls. They, in Ghana, one of the biggest food staples is fufu. F-U-F-U, fufu. And some places in like the south and the central use plantains, but generally speaking, they use sweet potatoes or cassava. Anyway, when they make the fufu, they boil it and they crush it, but they knead it. They pound it with this big stick in this big mortar, or actually, sometimes they pound it in the in an asante bowl. Not asante, Asanka, an Asanka bowl. So so imagine they're mashing this banana in an Asanka bowl, singing Asanka. Somebody called them an ugly banana, and said, you're the baboon and I am not. But anyway, moving on. So they would normally pound and knead this into this dough that they would eat with their stews. So when I made this recipe, I did the same thing. I boiled it, I mashed it, I put all the ingredients together, and then I just rolled it in the bowl and really kneaded it. And it just gave it this fantastic firm texture that's crispy on the outside. Like I said, you can use it with a soup. You can eat it by itself. It's got great heat. Again, you can make it mild without the chilies if you wanted to for your family or for a portion of your family. Having figured this out really helped me because one recipe that I wanted to make were plantain dumplings. But every time that I made them, they kind of held together in the bowl, in the soup. It's a dumpling that you'd like boil in soup, like bread dumplings, chicken and dumplings stew, but they were soft, and it was said that they wouldn't survive in the soup overnight. A lot of people said that, but it just wasn't working well. Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play around with really kneading those mashed plantains and see if I can't get a more solid dough that doesn't require the addition of any flour. I mean, I know that when they make fufu, they don't add any flour to it. It's just other starches. It could be a combination of yams and plantains, or cassava and plantain, or cassava and yam, but there's no flour involved. So that's one thing that I'm going to have that I'm going to work on tomorrow that isn't available today, but hopefully will be. I wish it was that I could remember what it was that I was going to share with you. The recipe that I'm going to work on is keyeye, and the one that I was looking at specifically came from Colombia, and they use potatoes and garlic. You can also use sofrito if you are a little further north, maybe from Puerto Rico or even from Spain. Oh no, that's totally different. That's not the dumplings. Keyeye is mashed boiled plantains for breakfast. So anyway, there were so many different ideas to try to narrow it down. Having never remembered whatever it was that I wanted to share with you, my extra special thing, I will show you my last one. And this is a beverage called Chapo, or Chapa. Maybe if you know, you can tell me the pronunciation correctly. It comes from Peru. Last week I talked about some things from Peru. Again, I have not had their traditional chapa, but I did make this by roasting the plantains, just like they might with some of their favorite seasonings. It was ground and mixed, I roasted it and then I boiled it with seasonings and then blended it in the blender. So this one does use some less traditional methods. You know, that blender I'm sure is not in the traditional Amazonian Peruvian setting. But the best, perhaps, in the Amazon, I don't have the Amazon. My chapo is a little thick. You might find it very pleasant with a straw. It is also best warm, and I suppose you could probably spike it if you wanted to. So, having shared those different things that I experimented with this week, if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear it. I have things in the works for next week. I don't want to tell you yet what my plans are. I plan to come on every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Alaska time. That may change if we're traveling, but I'd love for you to join me. And on Fridays, we go over to Facebook for a little more casual family time, talking about where we're at, what we're doing. Nathan, can share if he has anything to share. All of the recipes that I mentioned today are on our site, semiseriouschefs.com. You can look for recent things on the homepage. There's a search bar for you to look for certain things. A lot of things have been categorized by Peruvian or Latin American or West African, or you can look up plantains, or you can look up fried foods, or whatever you'd like. So for anyone who's gotten to join us today, I appreciate your live view. And if you're watching me after the fact, I appreciate your not live view. So we'd love it if you subscribe to our channel and could see what we have going on. It'll be recipes and travel and homeschool and also life with CF. And so I just thank you for being here today, whether it's today, or whatever day it is that you're viewing this. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. If nothing else, I hope you've learned something new, and I hope that you try something new, and perhaps it will be plantains. Have a wonderful day. Ooh, I don't know where the stop button is. You can all sit here and, oh, there we go. Maybe that's it.